Right, so today I've decided to do a video kind of revisiting my past a little bit. I'm back in my home place, which is Sundon Park in Luton. Some of you might be familiar with this place. It's Dincora Way industrial estate, and it's massively familiar for me because I used to spend most of my childhood on this very industrial estate, and in fact just over there was where I had quite a bad accident on my BMX as a kid, because I was one of them kids that loved my BMX and I attempted as much stupid and insane and impossible moves as I possibly could, which led me to having that very accident and losing my front teeth. So I'm kind of revisiting my past a little bit. I'm back in Luton, and obviously you can see the car I'm in. It's an old car, and this very car, not this particular one, but the car itself, the Vauxhall Astra GTE, is quite an important thing to me. Growing up, they were such a nice thing to look at, to drive, and they were like the popular sports hatch on the road. So I've borrowed this car from my friend Lee, and I've decided to do a little video driving it around Luton and talking about the car.
Silky Beats.
Now, what is the first thing that springs to mind when you drive an old car? Well, what do you think the first thing that springs to mind? So you put you in the driver's seat of this car right now, what would you look and think? I think most people would look and think, just bear in mind that you've never driven one of these before, I think you'd sit here and you'd think, this is old. And it is, it's an old car. This car was built in 1990, I think, and it reflects that, you know. It's got these cloth seats, which were actually a really nice option back in them days, but they do look rather dated now. Steering wheel, again, that was a really nice steering wheel back in the day, but it does look very dated. The dashboard, like, I ain't seen shapes like that for God knows how long, but back in them days, this was such a quality car. So my first impressions, although, yeah, it is old and it is a bit, I wouldn't say tired, that's a bad use of word, it's dated, but my first impressions are it's an Astra GTE. So to me, this is an important piece of history. The first thing that I notice when I drive this car is it's so responsive. Not responsive because it's like really powerful, because it's not, it doesn't have shed loads of power, but just because it's so mechanical. And I remember even back then when I used to drive these cars, I remember they were like that. You'd put your foot down and you'd be like, wow. And I think that gives the car so much quality, you know. When you put your foot down like that, that's unbelievable. I know you can't really see that through the camera, but it's good, it's impressive. That's what you want in a car. Now, with an Astra GTE, if you ask anyone of that sort of era that was around or grew up liking these cars, there's two things that spring to mind with these cars, two major things. Now basically, before I continue with these two things, they've done three different types of Astra GTE, basically, okay? They've done the 8 valve, right? The 2 litre 8 valve engine, which wasn't the demanded one, wasn't the one that everyone wanted, because the one up from that was the 16 valve. That's the one that almost everybody wanted. That was the one to have. They also done one up from that, which was the 16 valve as well. That was called the Champion Edition. They were rare as anything. There weren't many of them on the road. I was actually lucky enough to be the owner of one. It was a beautiful car, and like every other car that I own, I sold it. But the Champion Edition basically had full leather. They came in a burgundy sort of colour, and they had different wheels, and in the headrest of the seats they had like a net, like an old rally car. But my personal preference was a white 16 valve one like this with these seats. It was just my personal choice of car, and I think anyone watching this that knows anything about Astra GTEs will agree with that. But going back to the two things that spring to mind when you think of an Astra GTE, if you're like me, they are the Digi-Dash and the engine under the bonnet. That Digi-Dash was a rare thing. Not many cars back in them days came with a Digi-Dash, especially not a Vauxhall. I've luckily enough again been the proud owner of an Audi UR Quattro, and they are another car, absolute icon of a car, legend of a car. They had a Digi-Dash. This is a Vauxhall Astra, and it's got a Digi-Dash. And you think back in them days, it was a massively modern thing to have in your car. the speedo's in the middle, the rev counter's to the right there, and it's got your fuel gauge, your temperature, it's got it all on there, and it's just such a cool piece of character. And the other thing I mentioned was the engine, the second thing that springs to mind when you think of a Vauxhall Astra GTE. That red top engine is a 2 litre 16 valve, it produces 150 brake horsepower. It's a lot of power. It's actually not a lot of power, but it was a lot of power back then. It doesn't have a turbo, it's just a straightforward 4-cylinder 16 valve engine. But it's good, it's reliable, and more than anything, when you open the bonnet, it looks amazing. It's such a good looking engine. Compared to the 8 valve engine, it just looked so much better. I think the bottom line is with classic cars is they're not quality. They are not quality cars at all. In reality, manufacturers of all kinds, whether it's cars, tellies, mobile phones, whatever it is, their job as a manufacturer is to perfect things and improve on what they're doing. And year by year, they do. Like, I started off with an iPhone, I suppose it was called an iPhone 1, I can't remember. And I'm now on an iPhone 7. And each time, although we moan about them at times, but each time they do definitely get better. The late Vauxhall Astra VXR, the latest one out today, is a beautiful car. It's amazing. I've driven one of them. They pull really well, they look amazing. The dashboard and everything inside are just lovely. The seats are like something, you don't see seats like that in anything, and it's just such a quality car, and it's improved massively since the day of the GTE. But this car offers me personally an experience that an Astra VXR wouldn't offer me. It's priceless. And I think sometimes when you're driving down the road and you see someone else in a classic car, and you think, why is he driving that old banger? And it ain't because it's the best car out there, and he probably doesn't think that it's the best car on the road. But for him, for the driver or the owner of that vehicle, he's bought himself an experience. Hello, mate.
Nice one, mate.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Fucking nice one. Very rare you see this one.
Oh, they're a rare car, aren't they? It's lovely.
Yeah, wish you luck with it, mate.
Thank you, mate.
A nice one.
Cheers, mate. And see, even that there, it's a good example of respect. That guy there, clearly older than me, he see this car and thought, that's nice, but would he have done that if I was driving a new Vauxhall Astra VXR? I doubt it very much. And this is the thing, classic cars, they offer memories. That is exactly what they offer. They are not the best cars on the road. This car is 150 brake horsepower. The new Astra VXR is in the region of double that. And obviously it's a better car. But an Astra VXR, an Astra GTE, sorry, is a piece of history, and it's a piece of history that I was amongst, that I lived around, that I was involved with in my late teens. For me, I just love these cars. I absolutely love them. The big question really is, would I recommend that one of you lot go out and buy yourself an Astra GTE? Would I recommend it? And I think the answer to that is no. Not no to all of you. No to anyone who has no relation to this car. Anyone that can't relate a moment of their past with this car. If you can, if you are like me and you grew up in your late teens or whatever, at a certain stage of your life, liking these cars or owning one or driving one, and they really had an impact on your feeling towards cars, you at least need to go and get yourself in the driver's seat of one, because it's a brilliant experience, such a great experience. And if you can afford to, go out and buy yourself one, because it'll be something you'll buy and you'll talk about it forever, and you'll have your mates around your house, and it'll be the centre of conversation, and you'll just absolutely love and be proud of owning one of these cars. They are not amazing, they are not the best cars on the road, but to me, they're important. To finish the video, before I change the scene, I'm going to do a bit of accelerating past my high school, just like the old days, and I'm not speeding. It just, it's funny, the front end lifts up, it just does as it's told. Right, before I go, I want to talk about one word, and that word is expectations. Now, a question that I always get asked, that I have to answer so often, and I don't mind answering it, it's fine that people ask it, but I want to tell you through a video the answer to this question. And that question is, Calvin, do you find every other car slow and boring compared to your GTR? And the answer to that is no. Now, going back to the word expectations is exactly why I don't feel disappointed with every car I drive. This Astra GTE, it's old, it's dated, it's only 150 horsepower, it's not quality, it's a Vauxhall, you know, it's not going to be amazing, but you have that expectation of it when you get inside it. You don't expect it to be the best thing on the road, but what it does do is it over exceeds your expectations. A good example of that is, years ago I had a Ford Transit van, okay, and your expectations of a Ford Transit van is, it's not going to be very high. But my Ford Transit van, I had it remapped. It was already the fastest transit van you could possibly buy. It was 100 brake horsepower, a 2-litre turbo diesel engine with 100 brake horsepower. It's not a lot. I then had that van remapped to 128 brake horsepower. It's actually done by Evolve in Luton. That van, I'm not joking, it was fast. Not fast for a van, but it was fast. And everyone got out of the driver's seat of that van after driving it. They got out and said, wow, that thing is bloody fast, Cal. What the hell have you done to it? And I said, I've had it remapped. But my point is, it over exceeded everyone's expectations. Now, if I jumped in my GTR today and jumped back in that same transit van today, I'd be like, wow, this thing is exciting. And that is my point. Everything out there has a purpose, and everything out there you expect something of. And this GTE, my transit van, that Golf, that Fiesta, even them Toyota Priuses, a lot of these cars, they're not going to excite you in some ways, but in other ways they will serve a purpose and meet or even exceed an expectation. And every time I do a review on a car, I make sure that I've got that in mind, because my opinion on a car can't be based on being a GTR owner, because that would be terrible, and I'd be an absolute idiot if I criticised every other car on the road because I'm a GTR owner. I hope I explained that quite well. I'm very proud of my car, I love it, but I'm also very proud and in love with loads of other cars on the road, including this Vauxhall Astra GTE.
So there you go, I'm done. I hope you enjoyed that video. It's quite a meaningful one for me. Vauxhall Astra GTE, this industrial state, and of course my home place, Sundon Park in Luton. I'll see you soon, alright?